Mate, I think you should say this. You've got much better voice than me.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel the pressure, maybe.
But you thrive under pressure, mate. You're known as the finisher at Banbury, remember?
Okay, here goes. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 8 of You Are My Oxford, brought to you in conjunction with our sponsors Nutmeg, a new nostalgic football management game by Secret Mode, coming out in 2026, but with a free demo available right now. How was that?
Great job, fella. They're absolutely going to love that. Look at us with a sponsor.
I know, right? Welcome to the big league. What does this mean?
Well, it means to me, outside there, you've got the Cayman Islands. I'm recording this right now from the Cayman Islands.
Sorry, I meant, what does this mean for the podcast and our audience?
Well, it means our viewers are going to see their logo, probably down there, actually. Look at what looks appearing right now.
Okay, and also, I think, Dan, we are occasionally going to mention Nutmeg's heavy nostalgic feel with the ability to manage teams from the past, including, I'm sure, some Oxford United glory teams, Dan.
Great work, fella. Can you imagine being able to manage a team with Jon Narbett in it?
Oh, it's the stuff of dreams.
Sadly, I don't think this is going to pay for our holidays, but listeners, viewers, we are going to use our newfound fortunes to make this podcast look and sound even better for you.
You Are My Oxford podcast coming in your ears.
And coming in your eyes too on YouTube.
The big man with a big goal on the big occasion.
Man, this is all very exciting. And listeners, we have an absolutely belting episode for you.
Yeah, that's right. 2 games to reflect on. We're going to have a little look back at Joey Beauchamp, the legend. Theo's back later to give us the latest analysis back from his stat kitchen, of course.
And Matt, and...
Yeah, go on. You tell him.
We are going to be joined a little later on by a man who's had more mentions in this podcast than he made appearances for Oxford. But genuinely... We just recorded him, and he's a really, really, really lovely guy, and he's got some amazing stories. We have, at long last, Jon Narbett is joining the pod. We're also, Matt, we're going to announce the winner of our picture quiz, which we've been running on our socials.
A picture quiz in a podcast is a brave move, Dan.
A good time to remind our listening audience that we're on YouTube, we're all over social media too. Brought to you, of course, by Nutmeg, the nostalgic football management game. Nutmeg, Matt. Hold on, Nutmeg. Do we pronounce the exclamation mark?
What,
Nutmeg.
Like nutmeg, exclamation mark, or is it nutmeg? Or just nutmeg? Yeah, we should have checked that, Dan, shouldn't we?
Should have checked before.
Right, that's enough nutmeg for now. Run that sting.
We were discussing a couple of weeks ago how many points from Derby, Wrexham and Sheffield Wednesday. You said 5. I rather depressingly said 3. It turns out we both underestimated. But, Matt, we should be thrilled with our 6 points. But how are you feeling?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because I would have absolutely taken that before, and I think everyone would. But I don't know, there's just been a bit of negativity around the place. Obviously, the Wrexham game. And then, I don't know, for some reason, everyone thinks that we should have absolutely smashed Sheffield Wednesday. And listen, I know the first half was amazing, and then it was a bit backs against the wall the second half. But, you know, if you think about what Sheffield Wednesday had gone through that week, and it was their time to kind of party and celebrate on that Saturday, actually to hold our nerve and to come away with 3 points, I think was pretty incredible, I will say. Now, we were texting during the Wrexham game, and I think, you know, a lot of people were very disappointed by that performance. Honestly, I didn't think it was too bad. Obviously, it wasn't great. But, you know, over 3 games and we've got 6 points, I think Oxford fans at the moment, personally, should be way happy and just come out of that being, you know, not quite elated, but pretty bloody chuffed. And I think there's just, for me anyway, there's been a bit too much negativity about.
I agree with you. I mean, I did feel deflated after Wrexham. I really did. And then I did feel weird after the Sheffield Wednesday game. I can't quite put my finger on why. I think it was because, you know, they've had such difficulties and we really were clinging on in the second half. But we won. We won, right? We won the bloody game of football away from home. We've now won 2 away games this season.
Well, listen, last season,
Mm.
you know, we, you could any away win was amazing. As you say, we've already got 2, and you know the first half was pretty impressive. And listen, to come away from Sheffield Wednesday and with 3 points for me is, you know, it's incredible. And you know, like Wednesday's the place for us, isn't it? Remember last season with the Sam Long winner, and then this is fantastic. So yeah, no, I'm buzzing about it.
Good. Lovely to see the Lanks back amongst the goals,
Always a
and
nice
that free kick as well from
Oh, yeah, but it was a nice little striker's finish, that, wasn't it? Stooping with a header. But no, listen, it was lovely to kind of have him back in the goals, because what I didn't want for him was to, like, you know, have those kind of 3 games and go, he's got 3 goals, and you think, oh, is it just a flash in the pan? I think, you know, he is young and we forget that. And maybe he needed a little bit of a rest, and he's come back. He was absolutely flying. The free kick by Brannigan to set him up, but then obviously also his goal. I mean, he scores some free kicks, to be fair, doesn't he, Brannigan? And from far out, which is incredible. Yeah, what a guy. I was really happy for him, actually.
Absolutely. So that was Wednesday. On Saturday, what about Wrexham on Wednesday? A bit more detail?
Yeah, I don't really know what to say. I think I think because of what happened in Derby, when let's be honest about it, we could have won 4 or 5. We were just expecting kind of the same from our wingers in particular, you know, and it just never kind of happened on the wings at all. It was one of those games where it just felt a bit flat, which is such a shame, because, you know, I thought the Oxford support was fantastic travelling up there. It just didn't quite work out, and I can't really put my finger on why. I think my worry about this Oxford team this season is that kind of lack of consistency, and it seems like Gary Rowett has, you know, wants to kind of show faith in players when they do well and kind of keep the same side and all this type of thing. And yeah, I just don't want to be like have an amazing performance and then lose a couple, and then you just never kind of out of the bottom places and stuff. And that's my only worry about this team. But yeah, what did you make of it, Dan?
Do you know what? I had a few mates round. We were getting slowly drunker and drunker as the game went on. I can't remember that much about it. I was kind of hosting at the same time. I just remember like being slightly embarrassed by what a crap performance it was, because all my mates were watching it with me, and they're like, "What is this absolute rubbish that you're watching?" Do you know what, Matt? We've taken 6 points from 3 games. I thought we would be lucky to get 3, so I'm absolutely thrilled.
Dan, one thing I will say, if we hadn't had those first 3 games of this season, I think everything would just be looking a lot more rosy. Let's say if we just picked up 3 points or 6 points, you know, things would be looking a lot more rosy. We've just been playing catch up the whole season, so, you know, but 6 points from 9, we'll take that. Well, Dan, it's finally happened. I literally cannot believe this.
We've been promising this for some time. Jon, forgive us. We're going to give you the backstory about how you've ended up on our podcast. This started as a throwaway remark in an early episode when your name just popped up in the conversation. We were talking about, and I hate to say it, kind of obscure players from our past. Then a fan came to me and he said, "You should keep mentioning Jon Narbett. It could be like a running theme, a running joke." And it has. It's just stuck, and we've mentioned you in just about every episode since. In the midst of all this, I saw on Facebook your name popped up as a suggested friend. I couldn't believe it.
You'd obviously been mentioning him too much.
I suggested you as a friend and you accepted. So what on earth made you accept? What a strange thing to do.
Because it's all awesome. If I see, well, first of all, I know you're probably friends with Robbo and Moods and some of those lads. So, you know, they're all legends and still pals of mine. And even though I'm, you know, 20 years the other side of the Atlantic, still keep in touch with a lot of the old Oxford lads.
Listener, the next thing that happened was I cheekily asked Jon to send a voice note to prank Matt a few episodes back. And again, Jon, you did do that. And at this point, we realised you weren't just like an obscure player from our past. You're obviously a really good bloke, and we had to get you on. So, Jon, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me.
You honestly, if we had a spreadsheet of all the players who've been mentioned the most in our podcast, it'd probably be you at the top. How does that feel?
Whether it's good or bad, as long as you're remembered, that's all that matters. And so that's the nature that I take this in. You know, it's just, hey, you're still remembered,
John,
and that's all that matters.
absolutely. It's been a while, obviously, since you wore an Oxford shirt. You're joining us today from Chicago. What's taken you there?
I was away, and this is a shout out to any guys. First of all, American girls love British accents. They love British accents, and I'm a Brummie. So if they love my accent, like that's everything. So I was away with a bunch of buddies on a cruise back in 2004, 2005, and added that there was a few jocks there with the kilts, so the kilts and the accent, and I met somebody, and it was love that brought me across.
John, let's go back to 1992 when you signed for Oxford. I'm not just saying this, right? But I was actually quite excited when we signed you because in those days, I used to look at all the newspapers and I would see the name Narbett popping up all the time. You were banging the goals in for Hereford, kind of like an Edgar Street David Platt. Is that a fair description?
I that the, I'd love that description. Goal scoring midfielder, up and down. Yeah, I'd got into. I'd been playing in the championship as obviously, or the old first division as a younger player. At 19 or whatever, a new manager came in, which sometimes is the death of some players. And after being playing in the first team for, I had 20, 30 appearances that season, I wanted first team football. I went on loan to Hereford. Then ended up doing a record signing for me, which at 19, whatever, 30 grand, which was, was decent money back then. It sounds stupid now. And then obviously things went well there. And then I had my chance, and it was between Oxford. I think Oxford and Stoke actually came in for me at the same time. Went for Oxford, and I'm ready to go. I'm 23 when I think I joined. And as we might talk about today, sometimes it just doesn't work out. It just doesn't work out. It doesn't happen. And then with obviously the Brian Orton went to Man City that summer, and new manager coming, Dennis Smith, and although I got on well with everybody, it just didn't happen, and you have to move on.
Let's take you back to that moment when Oxford came in for you. How did kind of the move come about? And you've just mentioned him there. What was Brian Horton's sell to you? Why did he want to get you in the team?
I like to say, they came in for me literally the same time. Stoke came in for me that week. I'd been down to see Brian. He had this thing at the time, which I don't know if you spoke to other people. I don't know whether it was because he was hoping one day he would sign like a Messi or a Ronaldo, so it would be a good story. But he always used to do this thing where you'd meet him at wherever it was, a junction or something, and there was a restaurant, and then he'd say, "Oh, it's a bit crowded here. Let's go in the car." So we'd go into the car, and actually that's where I think I signed even my papers. But no, he just obviously it was a first division club, championship club at the time. Stoke, although a bigger club, and possibly obviously in hindsight, it's easy to say I should have gone with them. There was one of the coaches there, Chick Bates, was a former coach of mine, so it was somebody I knew. But like I said, I chose Oxford, and like I said, that was once you make your decision, you go forward.
Now, I think I'm right in saying that you lived with Paul Reece and Andy Melville in
Yeah.
the early days. Is that right? Any stories? Anything you can tell us about those days?
Oh, just crazy. I mean, so it was Robert Maxwell, I think. Robert Maxwell obviously had still owned some property to do with the club, and there's still a lot of legalities going on. So it was a house that was in Osler Road. Literally, as I looked from my bedroom,
No
you could
way.
see, yeah, you could see the club. So Andy Melville was already in there. So I moved in with Andy, and then obviously Reece signed Arthur through that season and moved in. So I mean, whatever the glamour is about first division football in the 90s, this was more like the young ones. It was more like the young ones. And I mean, we'll talk about a few stories there. There was a different blend of characters. Andy, quality, and obviously Welsh international, superb player, very quiet, liked his football, focused on his football, and his spare time would like a beer. You got Reece, who you know, funny enough, Reece is now living in America. He's running a coaching
Yeah, he
a
is. You're
coaching
right.
company. And in fact, I was invited to his wedding last summer, but we'd already booked vacation with my kids. But I still keep in touch with Reece. But Reece wasn't so much into the drinking side of things. If you remember the early 90s, the rave scene,
Yeah.
Reece was like mad into the rave. And my main thing of Reece, and he's happily married now. I'll say that. His wife's beautiful. But at the time, women love Reece. Women love
He was a
Reece.
good-looking chap, wasn't he?
He was a good-looking dude. So what would happen is we'd play a game, right? And if we get permission from the gaffer, if we were up north, he was from Nottingham, he'd shoot off. So Reece, every Saturday night, he'd be in a rave in Sheffield, he'd be a rave in London, he'd be. And all I know is Monday morning we'd turn up and there'd be like a different bird there every week. And we'd just be like, me and Andy'd be like, oh, and he'd meet somebody at a rave and come back and she'd be there supping with us for the week. So he was a character,
John,
unbelievable
it's so
character.
funny you say that because about 4 or 5 years after Paul Reece left Oxford United, I was in a nightclub in Derby, and
Yeah,
who's over my shoulder having it like that? Paul Reece. And I goes up to him, I'm like, "It's not
that's
Paul
Reece.
Reece, is it?" And he goes, "It is," in the middle
Oh,
of the dance floor. Couldn't believe it. So
that's
now you
Reece.
said that, that will make sense. That will make
Yeah, he was. He's a like just a great lad, Reece, great lad. And it was great seeing your episode a couple of weeks ago about that Derby game. Funny enough, which
yeah.
I swear to God, unbelievable.
Right?
And I always joked. I said I know that game better than anyone because I live with Reece. We had it on VHS every day. It was either Neighbours at the time or that game. So I literally could recite that every save he did that game. But no, that was legendary stuff. Unbelievable.
John, I looked up your league debut, and to my shock, I discovered it was another wild game from that season. It was the 5-5 game.
Unbelievable game that was.
And you came on, according to the records I can find, you came on at 5-2 down with about 10, 15 minutes left. And
Correct.
we drew
Gaffer's
5-5.
he's just
Impact,
gone,
you
go
say.
on, just give it everything. And then it was just one of those crazy games. And you get the momentum going and the crowd were great that night. Midweek game, I think it was. And like I said, unbelievable. And then just coming out. And I remember, funny enough, after that, walking out and obviously another former Oxford legend, Jim Smith, was Portsmouth manager. And out of all the managers I played with, to be fair, Brian Norton had the reputation as a teacup thrower. But apparently Jim Smith was even worse. I remember coming out and there, and I was saying to a couple of their lads, I was saying, oh man, the gaffer like went mad. He said, "You think your gaffer's bad?" I think Jim Smith blew it at the end of that. But yeah, it was an amazing game. Amazing game.
What did you actually do in the game? What was your impact, apart from running around a bit?
Just, I can't remember, honestly, setting up any goals. I wish I could say I smashed one in top bins in the last minute. But no, I just remember it just being crazy and the energy levels obviously coming on anyway for your debut. But then the energy levels of, so maybe, I don't know, maybe just me running around like an idiot, just pick the tempo up. I don't know. But remember, it was amazing last couple of minutes for sure.
Can you remember, after that game, it triggered a totally wild set of results. We won 4-0 with John Durning getting 4. You can tell us about John Durning later on. There was a 3-0 at Southend, and then we lost 5-3 at West Ham. And you're kind of involved, I think, in all of those games. You must have
Yeah.
been thinking, this is a mad team to join, right?
Yeah, and it was in particular. The funny thing is, I think I remember the West Ham away was that was on my birthday. That was the reason why I remember it was November 21st, and that game were two people, Julian Dix and Joey Beauchamp, which I'll say now. I mean, I know, funny enough, I only actually joined Facebook in 2019 to do a podcast with Hereford at the time. And
Right.
because obviously this was the medium of exchange, I didn't have social media. And funny enough, the first person when I first joined who friended me and I had contact with was Joey. And, and I'll say now, other people, I've played with some great players and some big names in my career. I went after that first 3 months playing with Joey, I was telling everybody, this guy's going to play for England. This guy is an absolute legend, super quiet guy. I got on fantastically well with Joey, as everybody did. Kept himself to himself, straight down the bookies. He's happy. And he was Oxford through and through. And you know the story about him going to West Ham and literally saying, I want to go home. And, but what a legend.
Mate, it's so lovely to hear you say that, and that you still remember him like that all these years later. Because obviously, us as Oxford fans, we've been telling the world that honestly, this guy could have played for England. We were looking through the games that you played for Oxford actually, and I think there was a game against Millwall when Joey scored a couple, and I think you might have set one up for him, right?
Yeah,
What was it?
Joey always teased me about that. So Joe, I think it was a bit of a muddy pitch. I remember it was 3-1, and he pings it into my feet, like that. He pings it into my feet, and I joked and I said, "Hey, Joe, that's an assist." But he pinged it into my feet, and I think he pinged it so hard, I kind of like almost didn't, so he just fell back to him. But he was just on fire
Yeah,
during
if you're
this
watching on
period.
YouTube, we're showing those goals now, and
Yeah,
he was on fire that day, wasn't he?
he was, and he just was like I mean, he was just a unique kind of person. I mean, there was just a humility to him, and totally down to earth. And I don't know, he just loved Oxford. Honestly, I've never met anybody who he loved his home, loved his hometown, and he just didn't, that's why you'd have prayed he needed to have like like they did in the Aldridge days, and that have a team that were good enough to get there for him, and he'd just been just
Yeah.
been a lifer.
It's a
But
really good point. Now, John, our sponsor is Nutmeg. Now, this is a computer game that allows you to build a team with players of the past. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot here, but which former Oxford United teammate would you pick if you had one pick for your dream team?
if I had one pick for my dream team, it'd have to be Jimmy or Jimmy Magilton or Andy Melville. Andy, because obviously he was my pal. But Jim had amazing ability. Amazing ability.
Two of my all-time favourites you've picked right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
John, we were messaging yesterday, and you really sweetly, I thought, you expressed kind of sadness. It never quite worked out at Oxford, and we never got to see the best of you. Can you put your finger on why that might have been? Why didn't it work out for you? Do you reckon?
I was experienced enough, to have, from 16, and then obviously, unfortunately, had a cruciate injury. You have a lot of time to reflect, and you saw it a million times to other people. Sometimes in the game, you'd say, it just didn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And like anything in life, getting off to a good start is the important thing, and not making excuses. But like I said, one of my best pals in the team was Andy Melville, and he wasn't a highly aggressive player. He was more like calm and steady. And in fact, Brian Orton used to say to him all the time, he said, Andy, why can't you take somebody else out like you did Narbs the first day in training? During that season, because I remember the ball came, I let it run through my legs. So probably I'm taking it a little bit more intensely on the first 5-a-side of the season because I want to impress the lads. And he's come from behind, taken me out. And I more or less spent the whole summer. And as an engine guy midfielder, you miss pre-season. That's not good. And I remember we had a last pre-season game against Norwich, and the gaffer went, "Well, come on, Narbs, I want you to play." And I came on as sub, and and I'm like behind, and I honestly felt like I was just playing catch up. And then I kept getting injuries because I didn't have a base of a training season. And then you come back the next season, like, okay, trying to, let's get this started again. And then Brian, goes to Man City. You got a new coach in, and although I got him fantastically with Crozza, Dennis Smith, he just brings in his own players, and you're against it then, and
So
it sometimes happens.
even though he's your mate, it's all down to Andy Melville.
Shags, Andy Melville. Melv, what are you doing, man?
I've got a slight bone to pick with you, John, which is I was at a game you played against us a couple of seasons later for Chesterfield. I got my then girlfriend to drive me there. It was so cold that day. It was just a miserable day. We lost 1-0, and you had a really good game. And I think I might even have been heckling you. Anyway, my girlfriend, who was rich and pretty, she dumped me shortly after that game, probably because of that miserable afternoon. What do you remember of that game?
I remember that massively. I think there was two things, obviously, because I'm on the ascension. I'm 23. I'm going back to the championship. It doesn't work out, and so obviously we've got this game. We're both going for promotion at the time, and just remembered. And funny enough, as I came through the car park, the Oxford coach pulled up. So all the lads get off the Matty Elliott. I remember saying, "Hey, Nobs." So it's straight away. It's like, "Oh, Nobs, you're playing today. You're playing today." So I had a bit of banter with the boys, and obviously I just had a personal point to prove. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. It had always left a bad taste in my mouth at Oxford, and I just wanted to do well. And like I said, was up for the game. In fact, the one thing I do remember from that game, again, one of my best buddies there was Sir Les Robinson, who I
Friend of the
used to
show,
always.
friend of the show.
Oh, Robbo, legendary. Him and his wife Michelle, brilliant.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I remember we're playing, and I remember there was an incident where I've gone down. I'm in the box, and Robbo's just caught me. He's just caught me, and I remember just that split second timing of like being honest, and I could have gone down, and I remember just I play the ball back, and I go, Rob, I could have gone, mate, and he went, I know you could, Nabs, I know you could. So I always remember that. At least a little bit of honesty. If we'd lost, I'd have regretted that. But
John, that was a very good impression of Celeste. Now, Dan's been telling me that you had a strong connection to the England national team. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so my brother, Roger, my older brother, he was, who funny enough, had opportunities. He was a schoolboy with Villa, but didn't make the grade, went into catering, became chef of the year, young chef of the year, knows all the kind of legends. And it was just after Bobby Robson was manager of the England team. And I think they'd played in, I can't remember, some dark part of Europe, and they'd all gone down with food poisoning. So when you think about it, you've got like millions of dollars worth of players, and so they just started having a chef. So my brother became the chef, and went to. I mean, he's met the Queen, he's been in 10 Downing Street, he's met Nelson Mandela. So he kind of worked all the way through. So it was interesting because Steve McLaren obviously was the reserve manager at Oxford that time. And then Mac obviously did fantastically well in the coaching side of things, and was the assistant to Sven. And so I met Mac, funny enough, a couple of times. My brother, so like I said, and got to go to, I think, the French in France World Cup '98. A couple of the game that Michael Owen scored in. I was sitting behind Posh Spice and the Rolling Stones, and So it's funny that some of my better memories as a player was not so much playing, but some of the experiences I had with him.
That's absolutely incredible.
And got to circle back to the one time I had to go down and drop him something off, and Gazza was with Macca at the time, and my one little claim to fame was having my nose broken by Gazza. So I got to confront him about that too, and he was just as crazy.
How long was your brother chef for England?
So he must have been, I don't know, I'm doing the math on that. So that's he started full-time after the 90 World Cup, and then left the South Africa World Cup. He retired just before that World Cup with Capello. So I don't know what that was, 2000, and when was that, 2010 or something?
Yeah, was it?
So yeah, massive period.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. Wow,
Where's
you
he
learn
working
something
now?
new every day.
Yeah.
Where's he working now, John?
No, he's done well. He's 10 years older than me, so he's retired now. In fact, he did. It was called the Roger Narbett collection at Sotheby's, of all these shirts he got over the years, all this memorabilia. I mean, he kept some of the best ones, that Beckham signed, and obviously all those World Cups and Euros he went to. But he did sell off a lot of stuff, and when he retired, and but always kept good to the lads. Always kept good to the lads. The stories that went on stayed with him. I will admit that.
Love that. Very talented family. Very talented family. You've mentioned a few former Oxford players that it sounds like you're still mates with. Who do you keep in touch with from that kind of Oxford era that you were there?
Well, obviously, Les Robinson, another guy, Darren Jackson, who again was an England youth player. I think, Jack, I was really unlucky with injuries. So he's out in Bangkok. So I keep in touch with him. Obviously, Reece a lot, and then Andy Melville through social media, and another guy who I don't know whether Coos would look back on Oxford as one of his greatest times, but a guy, Nick Cusack, who was a great friend. And funny enough, I ended up working for the PFA, and Nick Cusack was there at the time and still involved with them.
Oh
But
yeah,
he was a
he does a
top
lot
guy.
for the PFA, doesn't he?
He does. He's probably the most intelligent footballer apart from Kerry Evans, who obviously played with us at that time. We had a I don't know, there's some intelligent guys in that team.
Yeah.
Jon, thank you so much for your time. Before you leave us, it's been brilliant talking to you. Have you got time to play a little game with us? This is a brand new game we're introducing to
Of
the
course I
podcast.
have. Come on.
Excellent. All right. I'm going to give you the rules. I'm the referee on this, okay? Because I've invented this game. It may or may not work because, as I said, we've never actually done it before. But the rules are this, okay? I'm going to name a season. Normally, Matt, we're going to do this at random, but obviously with Jon here, we're going to go for the season that Jon played most, which was 92-93. You are both going to think of the player that the other person you think is most likely to name, and you're going to write that down on a piece of paper now, please. Okay? While you're doing that, I shall carry on with the rules. You're going to take it in turns to name players who played that season. If you think your opponent has got one wrong, you can call them out. And if you're correct, then you win. But if you're incorrect, then the other person wins.
So it's just
Okay?
a case
Have
of
you got this?
naming players from the 92-93 season.
But if you name the one that Jon has written down,
I think I've got it.
Jon wins.
Jon, have you kind of got that?
Yeah, more or less.
More or less. All right.
Let's give it a whirl.
We'll let Jon go first. Jon,
Okay.
can you name a player, please, from the 1992-1993 season?
Well, I'll pick obviously one of the legends of that team, Jim Magilton.
Matt.
Let's go Gary Smart.
Andy Melville.
Bing, 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 bing.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I need to see it, Matt. Can you show me the piece of paper, please? Andy Melville.
Yeah? Have you got that?
Yeah, I can see it loud and
Yeah?
Jon, you have been defeated.
You see? And that sums up my Oxford United career. It's over before it's even started.
So, Dan,
Oh,
just thinking about it, it's a bit like the game Pointless. You almost want to choose the most obscure ones.
Most obscure players. Yeah.
Got you. So,
We'll develop the tactics as we carry on.
Jon, well done. How did that feel? Did you enjoy that? You'll have
Yeah,
to come on again.
Yeah, legends. Legends. Love it.
It's been really, really lovely talking to you. Jon, in your honour, can we call that game the Jon Narbett game, please?
You can call it the Jon Narbett game. 2 seconds and it's over, yeah? As my ex-wife used to say.
An absolute pleasure and privilege having you on. Seriously, we've had a lot of fun chatting about you on this pod up till now. But honestly, we've had now a chance to properly chat to you for half an hour, get to know you. I'm sure our listeners will really have enjoyed those little stories as well. So thank you for joining us from Chicago today.
Anytime, and like I said, and it's people like you for doing this that like keeps clubs alive. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Love it.
The Edgar Street, David Platt, thank you so much for joining us.
Now then, he's been away for a few episodes while we've been, of course, gallivanting with our new celebrity friends. But our very own Ikea Ellick is joining us from what I was hoping was going to be his stats kitchen. It looks like his stats cupboard. Hello, the one and only Theo.
Hello. So are you suggesting that my segments are put together by an amateur with bit missing or in the wrong place?
Never.
that right?
We would never do that to you. We never say that about you.
Yeah, it's interesting you should mention Ellick, actually, because I spent a good 45 minutes on Sunday pulling together my stats for this. I thought I've got up my game. Dan and Matt are doing an amazing job with their guests. And Ellick said them, I would say word for word on Monday in the dub, but he obviously did it more professionally and eloquently than I could, which is why I'm IKEA and he's up there with your magnets, your DeLongies, your Smegs, and that's the rest he's mentioned in.
Was it eloquently a pun? Was that on purpose?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Anyway, you are following our long-awaited interview with Jon Narbett, so no pressure, but this had better be good, Theo. Hit us with some good data stats for the first quarter of the season.
Well, my main point from the first quarter of the season is the championship table statistically is absolute chaos. And if we look at Opta's expected points return versus the actual points return, teams are just all over the place. Take out Coventry, who are clearly the best team at the moment, Sheffield Wednesday, who are really struggling at the bottom. If I read down the predicted points league, it goes Coventry in first, Ipswich second, who are currently 12th, Southampton third, currently 20th, Birmingham fourth, currently 15th, Watford fifth, currently 14th, and then Millwall and Middlesbrough, who are doing well. And the bottom up, Hull come after Sheffield Wednesday, currently 8th, Swansea 13th, Derby, Leicester, Wrexham. So I guess what this is suggesting is there's a long way to go in shaking up this table. And this, in the last 3 seasons, 8 of the 9 teams that have gone down have been 17th or lower at this stage of the season. And with only Birmingham, who obviously went in free fall after they took Rooney on. I would be really surprised. Obviously, Sheffield Wednesday looked likely, but really surprised if the other 2 came from the lower regions of the league, given those stats.
An interesting one. So let's think about us. Anywhere we kind of stand out, kind of that we stand out for the good or for indeed for the bad.
So on our WhatsApp group, we talk quite a lot about how we need to do more from open play and we can't rely on set pieces. I want to slightly go against that narrative and say maybe we should throw a lot of our baskets into the set pieces. And the reason being is FB Ref do some statistics around passes in open play that lead to shots and goals and passes from dead balls that lead to shots and goals. Now, if you take shots that in open play that lead to goals, we are absolute rock bottom and miles behind some of the teams we would be hoping to compete with. But, and I think this is a first in 10 or 11 months of doing this podcast, for goals from dead ball passes, we are the best team in the championship and we lead miles ahead of some of the other teams we could be competing against at the bottom of the league. And it's the same with kind of creating chances from open play, we're bottom third. But chances from dead ball situations created, we are second to only Sheffield United with 35 chances. So I genuinely think that is a first.
Sum it all up in 3 words for me, Theo.
Let Walks. No, that's 4.
Give Volks ball.
Give Volks ball. Volks throw ball.
So our other news this week is that alongside Nutmeg, you'll also see a logo for the Joey Beauchamp Foundation on our content. It's great that they've just been awarded charity status for their ongoing work helping support those suffering with mental health issues.
Yeah, look, the logo's up there. It might be down there. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to put it in the edit yet, but it's going to be in the corner of one of our screens. This is something we've wanted to do for a while, and we approached them earlier on this season. And honestly, when they got back to us this week, we were really, really thrilled. They've given us permission. We are truly honoured to be associated with them.
Yeah, we released a little video this week celebrating Joey's life, and it's been lovely to see it kind of doing so well, especially on TikTok, because I think we sometimes forget, Dan, that although we grow up with Joey kind of thrilling us every week down the wing, if you're under 30, you probably won't have seen him play. So shall we have a quick watch?
Joey Beauchamp really was one of our own.
A ball boy at Oxford United's greatest moment, the League Cup win of 1986. And before the 80s were over, he'd made his Oxford debut in the second tier.
But his breakthrough came after club legend Paul Simpson was sold in 1991. Somehow we'd upgraded for free.
His goals lit up a desperate season, notably scoring twice against Swindon. And on the last day of the season, his winner at Tranmere kept us up.
Over the next few seasons, his goal tally grew as quickly as the clubs wanting to sign him. But Joey was a quiet, insecure lad, and football then was a brutal world.
He didn't settle after a £1 million move to West Ham and soon asked for a move back nearer home. A short-lived and unhappy spell followed at some other club.
For a bargain fee, he returned to the Yellows, and so did the goals. His ridiculous goal against Blackpool, the highlight of the promotion charge.
His best year in the Championship saw him rattle in 19 goals, headers, dribbles, volleys.
This took his tally of goals for the club to 77. You can see almost all of them on our YouTube page. On the pitch, Joey Beauchamp was magic. Off the pitch, he battled depression, and tragically, he took his own life in 2022.
His family set up the Joey Beauchamp Foundation in his memory to help those suffering with mental health issues.
And we're honoured to have their logo on our content from now on.
Dan, how good was Joey, and what's your favourite memory of him?
Joey was unbelievable. As John has already mentioned, he was just this unbelievably brilliant football player. I'd obviously heard rumours about him, coming through. There's this kid in reserves and youth team. Everyone kept saying, "You got to watch out for him. He's going to be really good." And then I remember he came into the team. I think it's about 1992, just after we'd sold Paul Simpson, and he burst into the team. And it took me 2 or 3 games at least before I got to see him. And I saw him playing away at Charlton. And I'll stick in the goal in the edit later on, because he scored this incredible goal where he jinked through 2 or 3 players and he stuck one in the top corner. It's actually at Upton Park, but that's where Charlton were playing. It's a beautiful, beautiful goal. I thought, oh my God, this kid is good. And then that season, I was working a lot of weekends, so I didn't get to go to many games. I went to one against Portsmouth, and Portsmouth had the other wonder kid of the time, this guy called Darren Anderton, who went on to play 50, 60 times for England, and everyone considered one of the great English players of the era. And Joey played him off the pitch. It was like the 2 great young wingers coming through, and I think they both scored, but Joey just absolutely ran the show that day, and he scored a goal. It was a really important game. We were battling against relegation. He jinked through the players, and the keeper came out and he dinked it. So he was playing on the left wing that day. He dinked it with his left foot into the top corner as the keeper came out. It's just the most beautiful goal you've ever seen. And I think, even though he did lots of incredible things for us, just seeing that moment, this is our kid, and he's really, really bloody good. And I think that's probably my favourite memory. What about you, Matt?
So, there's so many, and listen, I could name the obvious ones, obviously the Blackpool volley, or, even though I wasn't there, but it was everything around it, the Tranmere kind of win to goal to keep us up and all that. But my dad always used to taking me to Wolves away. His family are from not too far away, so we always tried to go to Wolves away. And whenever Joey played Wolves, he was amazing. And there was a few seasons when away at Wolves, kind of 92, 93, 93, 94, 94, 95, or maybe even 91, 92, we always did quite well there. I think we won 1 or drew 1. I think we lost by the odd goal. But there was this one day, and I've forgotten exactly what season it was, but we were wearing all red. And Joey it was one of those days when he was unplayable. And it was in that moment, which we were speaking about, Dan, when the away teams didn't really, the opposition didn't really know too much about him. And he'd just pick up the ball and he'd just run from one side, from kind of the halfway line all the way to the corner, jinking in between players. And I remember he went on this one mazy run. It didn't go in, but he jinked past about 3 or 4 defenders and just put it wide. And I remember thinking, this is my guy, and he plays for us, and it's incredible. Yeah, so many memories, but I've almost got a vision in my head of him jinking, walking through the Wolves defence that day, which is fantastic. But guys, listeners, please, if you haven't done, on our YouTube page, there's a video Dan very, very lovingly compiled of almost all of Joey's goals, which listen, is a great watch. Please watch it.
He just did so much more than the goals he scored. It was those jinking runs. It was the defenders he left on their arse. It was the whip he used to get on set pieces. He was just the complete and utter player, and he was ours. It's a great watch, if I say so myself. And if you've got 15 minutes to spare, I reckon will be the best 15 minutes you can spend this week.
Absolutely. You will not be disappointed, but absolutely fantastic to have the Joey Beauchamp Foundation appearing on our pods.
Somewhere.
Right, Dan, a quick socials update then, please.
Yeah, Matt, we ran a picture quiz on our various socials, on Facebook, on Instagram and on TikTok. And there was a picture quiz and you had to name 5 former Oxford players. We had some winners. The first people to correctly identify them were Ross Ludbrook on TikTok, John Twiss on Facebook, and Vegas Ox. I don't think that's his or her real name, on Instagram. I promised them all a mention.
I know John Twiss. I know Twissy. Shout out to Twissy. Lovely. Hopefully he's listening. He's an absolutely smashing lad. A lot of people recognise him from Oxford. He's a massive Oxford United fan. He's at a lot of games. Very pleased with Twissy. He knows his Oxford inside out. I think I only got about 3 out of the 5 players, to be perfectly honest, Dan. So, yeah, I know. And there I am presenting an Oxford United podcast. But there we go.
Yeah, you do it very well.
So
Lovely
presumably
voice.
these guys get a prize. What are they getting? Like a signed Oxford shirt by us or something?
They get maybe a free demo version of Nutmeg, which you can download, of course, from the Nutmeg website. Have we mentioned Nutmeg before?
Very, very good idea, that, Dan. I see what you've done there. Very, very good idea. Also, of course, Mark Rawls' goal. How is the quest to find this goal? How's it going?
Weak. No leads yet, alas. I messaged Simon, friend of pods, Simon Watts, this morning, and he's not been in the office to check whether he can find the goal or not. So, friend of the pod, Mark Rawl, if you're listening, our search goes on.
Oh, right. Okay. Shall we look ahead to the football to come?
2 games in the week. How are you feeling, Matt, about Millwall and Stoke?
Well, it's one of those, isn't it? You look at the table and you're like, oh, this is a bit daunting. Millwall currently speaking, 3rd or 4th? Stoke, a couple of places behind them. But it's one of those leagues, I think, this year where kind of, doesn't really matter where teams are. I think you can kind of have a go. Obviously, it's very competitive. And, looking at us, I think, as I mentioned earlier, if we hadn't had those first 2 or 3 games of the season, I think we'd probably be all right. And, I know there's been a bit of negativity, and whenever we lose at the moment, there's a bit of negativity, but I honestly do not think we're too far away at all. And I think pre-season did not help us at all. And we could probably do a whole episode on that in itself. Obviously, we signed a few players late on, but I think everything's coming together. And Dan, I'm actually feeling quietly confident, which is never a good sign. But I think we'll be very, very competitive in both games.
Prediction, please, Matt.
Points prediction.
Yeah.
I will go for 2.
You're feeling really optimistic and you're going for 2 points.
Well, listen, Millwall, they're one of the teams of the season so far.
I'm optimistic for a draw today, lads.
Oh, how are you feeling? Go on, give me your little.
I'm going 4.
Preview.
4 points, and I'm only
Oh, I
going for
love that.
4 because if I'd go for 6, you'll laugh at me. I'm going for 4. 4
that's all
points. We're
good.
going to beat Millwall.
We're going to beat Millwall. How are you feeling about how the team's coming together? There's been a lot of negativity. What have you made of that? And is some of the criticism of Rauer fair? I've heard one of these ongoing criticism is that now we're in that second season and he's bought some attacking players. He doesn't actually know kind of how to manage that, in that kind of stick or twist thing. What are you thinking?
It's a difficult one. I am thinking we're Oxford United, right? And it's always going to be a struggle for us at this level, I think. Now, I've heard there are rumours circulating that our budget's actually a lot bigger than our position in the table. I don't know if that's true or not. I've got literally no idea. All I know is that I'm really worried about us becoming that club, the club that is constantly trying to achieve something it probably won't be able to achieve, and will keep sacking managers in the process or keep signing players that are too expensive for us. And I don't want us to be that club because that is a road to ruin and despair, and I don't want that to happen. So,
Here.
I was really frustrated by Wrexham, for instance, but that's life. We're playing at a really, really high level. So, yeah, I don't know.
Fair play. All right, 4 points for Dan, 2 points for me. Everyone, let's hope it's 6. But thank you so much for listening today, Dan. We're back in a few weeks.
Assuming that we're not addicted to the free demo of Nutmeg,
Very true.
the nostalgic football game.
Very good point.
The big man with a big goal on the big occasion.